Everyone, and welcome to today's video. This is a B1 lesson. It's part 2 of socializing, and today we're going to be talking about intensifiers, which are adverbs that are used to make adjectives stronger. All right, so keeping in touch. Keeping in touch is an expression that we use to talk about how we communicate with people, and there are many ways to communicate with people. And some of the ways that you might keep in touch would be to send postcards, write text messages, write letters, write emails, or use video conferencing software. So we're going to listen to Claire, and she talks about 4 different ways of communicating. So what 4 ways of communication does Claire mention, and what does she feel sad about?
One way of communicating which is in danger of disappearing is sending postcards. When I was younger, I traveled a lot. This was in the days before email, and making international phone calls was really expensive. So I wrote letters and sent postcards. Sending postcards was a particularly good way to keep in touch. You could share a picture of the place you were visiting with your family and friends. These days, I'm sad to say that postcards are becoming quite hard to find.
Right, so the 4 ways that she mentioned were postcards, phone calls, email, and letters. And she feels sad because it's difficult to find postcards these days. All right, so now we're going to talk about making adjectives stronger. So Claire uses the adjectives expensive, good, and hard. So listen for the words that she uses before these adjectives.
One way of communicating which is in danger of disappearing is sending postcards. When I was younger, I traveled a lot. This was in the days before email, and making international phone calls was really expensive. So I wrote letters and sent postcards. Sending postcards was a particularly good way to keep in touch. You could share a picture of the place you were visiting with your family and friends. These days, I'm sad to say that postcards are becoming quite hard to find.
Okay, so she used really for expensive, particularly for good, and quite to intensify hard. So to intensify means to make stronger or sharper. In English, we can use words called intensifiers to make other words stronger. So they added special effects to intensify the scenes in the movie. The violins intensified the sadness of the music. She added chili to intensify the flavor of the food. So here are some sentences containing intensifiers. And so you can pause the video and write down the intensifiers that you find in each sentence, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. So he is a very good football player. Very is the intensifier, modifying the adjective good. She is so talented. So is the intensifier. The pizza was really delicious. Really tells us how delicious. The special effects were particularly good. Particularly. They are very tired. Very. Alan is quite happy at the moment. Quite. The exam was pretty hard. Pretty. And Beijing is a very large city. Very. All right, so Claire likes to send postcards, and now we're going to read about Hamza. How does he like to communicate? And you'll be looking for the three intensifiers that he uses. So you can pause the video and read on your own, or you can follow along as I read. There is so much new technology these days that sometimes I feel as if I'm getting left behind. I love video calls though. My son and his family live in New Zealand, so the chance to actually see them all as well as talk to them is very good. It's a really great way to keep in touch. So he used very, really, and so. All right, positions of intensifiers. We generally put the intensifiers directly before the adjective. So here's some examples. These days, I'm sad to say that postcards are becoming quite hard to find. So hard is the adjective, and we put the intensifier quite right before the adjective. Sending postcards was a particularly good way to keep in touch. Good is the adjective, and particularly is the intensifier. And there is so much new technology these days. Um, so here it's saying that the intensifier isn't always next to the adjective. New is actually the adjective. And so we have so. It still comes before the adjective, but there's the word much that comes in between. Really also appears directly before the main verb. So Tao and Shan really enjoyed the movie. So enjoyed is the main verb. He has really studied well this week. Here, again, studied is the main verb. And I didn't really understand the book. So here, understand is the main verb and really comes before it. So note that really comes directly before the main verb. In the bottom two examples, the verb comes after the auxiliary verbs do and have. All right, we often emphasize or highlight the intensifiers when we speak. So listen to Yan. She uses three different intensifiers. What are they? She uses one intensifier twice. Which is it? And Yan uses an intensifier that you have not seen before in this lesson. What is it?
Personally, I think smartphones are a menace. They are especially popular with younger people, but it seems to me that people of all ages have fallen under their spell. They are so addictive that many people seem to use them continuously. I think it's absolutely awful if you are trying to have a conversation with someone and that person spends all of their time looking at their smartphone. It's so rude.
All right, so the three intensifiers that she used were especially, so, and absolutely. The one that she uses twice is so, and absolutely is the one that we had not seen before in the lesson. So in English, some adjectives already have a strong meaning. These adjectives already contain the idea of very. So the adjective tired, instead of saying very tired, you could say I'm exhausted. Hungry, instead you could say I'm very hungry, but you could also just say I'm starving. Or that was bad, that was awful. So we don't use very with extreme adjectives. Instead, there's another group of intensifiers to use with extreme adjectives. So here's the examples. He was completely exhausted. They are totally starving. I think it's absolutely awful. And so we'll look at more of these adjectives and intensifiers in another video. All right, now we're going to read Simon's ideas about communicating. First, find the intensifiers, and then when you read, place emphasis on the intensifiers. So this one, I'll want you to pause the video and read it out loud. I'll read it first, and then you can pause the video and make note of where I put the emphasis. So let's see, the intensifiers, I would say almost, really, so, pretty. Okay. So, what does Simon? Well, go ahead and we'll read this first. At work, at least, almost all of our communication takes place via email. When I check my email first thing in the morning, there is always a ton of messages from my boss. I think it's really impersonal because she's so busy, the messages are usually pretty short and direct. I know it's supposed to be more efficient than having face-to-face meetings, but I'm not a fan. So then you can pause the video, try this on your own, and then read it with stress on the words that we underlined. All right, and then what does Simon mean by direct? It just means that she gets right to the point. There isn't a lot of small talk. The person just goes right to the point of what they want to say. And what does Simon mean by a ton of? There's always a ton of messages. Again, this is an idiom that just means an extremely large amount, a very large amount. All right, so we're going to practice intensifiers. So first you're going to find the adjectives and then choose an intensifier. And then you can practice reading the sentence with emphasis on your own. So in number one, the music is loud. So you could say really loud, very loud, quite loud. So I'll let you choose the intensifier that you use. The cake is delicious. Elsa is intelligent. The film was enjoyable. The book is interesting. Emil and Jens are hungry. I am energetic today. And Madrid is beautiful. So do some practice choosing the intensifiers that you think go well with each of these adjectives and then read it aloud on your own. Okay, so we're going to listen to Andy and then answer these questions. Which of these intensifiers does Andy use? And Andy uses the word handy. Which other word does he use that has a similar meaning?
Emails are a pretty quick and efficient way to communicate. They have two main advantages over phone calls or face-to-face meetings. For a start, you can send or respond to an email whenever you like, which makes email really convenient. This is especially useful if you have a very busy work schedule. Also, you have a written record of the message, which is particularly handy when you need to check what you communicated to someone.
All right, so the intensifier that he used was letter A, pretty. And handy is similar to convenient. Okay, so Greta and Hedda talk about smartphones. So go ahead and try this on your own. Read this and fill in the blanks with the words from the boxes, and then restart when you're ready to check your answers. I use my smartphone to communicate with my friends and family, and I'm online almost all the time. It's really quick and easy to stay in touch. For me, the only downside is that it can be quite distracting, especially when I'm trying to do my homework. I usually have to put my smartphone in my desk drawer. These days, I only send text messages. The best part about it for me is that I can avoid making phone calls. Text messages are particularly good because you don't have to respond to them immediately. So if you're busy, you can send a reply when you finished what you were doing. No interrupted meal times. No more interrupted meal times. All right, so now, do you agree with these statements? So just practice giving your own opinion. So it's particularly rude to cancel a meeting by text. Email is very convenient. It's impolite to use a phone while eating with your friends. And computers are especially good for sending pictures. So you can just give your own opinions on each of those. So now make a sentence about each picture using an intensifier, and you can use adjectives below, or you can use another adjective. So you could try these on your own. All right, so give an opinion about each of the ways of communicating and use some intensifiers, and you can write those sentences on your own. That brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, and if you have any questions, leave those for me in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.